How's it going, Giants fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. And, you never want to wake up on a Thursday morning and see the news that Daniel Bellinger, our rookie tight end, was placed on the physically unable to perform list with a quad injury. Kind of give a reaction to that, what exactly is going on there, our anticipation of how this injury will unfold. It seems to be nothing overly serious because it kind of came out of nowhere. But of course, there are some details that I think are important to note, specifically if he does miss time and if he misses time leading up to the regular season, how this impacts his development and growth. And then we want to discuss, the big contract to Kyler Murray, simply because it does impact the way we view Daniel Jones and how much he will be paid if they do extend him. So there is some implications there, I do believe, that are necessary and relevant to discuss. Before we dive into the good stuff, Anthony, how do you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. And honestly, I got to tell you, this Daniel Bellinger news is a little bit worrisome for me. I do think that this is a really important detail for Giants. When you're taking a look at what they've done this offseason, they're incredibly thin at the tight end position. And I was almost banking on this fourth round rookie, Daniel Bellinger, to have a really good year. And it's just kind of disappointing that now he's on the PUP and he could potentially be dealing with an injury that keeps him sidelined for much of training camp. And that could create a lot of problems for the Giants offense because you want this guy up to speed, ready to go for the regular season. And if he's missing time during training camp, well, he's missing a lot of valuable practice snaps and he's missing a lot of offensive installation. They're installing the scheme during training camp, and it's going to be really important for him to be out there. So hopefully this isn't anything too serious, because if this continues all the way into the regular season, this injury with his quad, he will be required to miss a minimum of 4 games on the PUP list if he's not activated before the regular season. So I do think this is a really important piece of news, and it does have me a little bit worried.
Yeah, I mean, look, going into training camp, I kind of anticipated that, Bellinger was going to be the starter. He was the TE1. Of course, we signed Ricky Seals-Jones and Jordan Akins to 1-year contracts to help kind of fill the tight end position after allowing Evan Ingram and Kyle Rudolph, who just signed a deal with the Buccaneers, actually, to go this offseason. So, we want a little bit more reliability, maybe a little bit more athleticism, some blocking prowess. Kyle Rudolph was slow as molasses, dude could not run. Honestly, I don't even know how that guy is still playing football. He's so slow. Then Evan Ingram, of course, has hands like bricks or feet for hands, whatever you want to look at it. It just can't catch the football. But then Daniel Bellinger, guys, I mean, it's just a breath of fresh air because he didn't drop a single pass in 47 targets last season with San Diego State. And he has a 4.2% drop rate in his career. So you're looking at a player who's extremely reliable as a receiver, the biggest hands of any tight end in this draft class. He has all of the tangible traits you want. Big frame. He's a nasty blocker in the trenches. Like, this is a guy we need healthy. Put up 353 yards and 2 touchdowns last year with San Diego State, the Aztecs. So pretty solid numbers. Obviously, there's a lot left to be desired, especially in the red zone with a guy of his size and stature. But I think that his immediate impact is going to be as a blocker, especially opening up those gaps for Saquon Barkley, chipping the defensive edge rushers on the edge and just giving Daniel Jones a little bit more time in the pocket. But in the meantime, if he does miss a couple of weeks here, it will impact his development, will impact his growth, will impact the chemistry he builds with Daniel Jones and the playmakers and offensive players over the next few weeks. But hopefully, it's nothing serious. I guess essentially he failed his physical with that quad injury. But some people seem to believe that it's nothing too serious. Of course, we'll update you guys on any new developments that do unfold with this specific injury. But Anthony, I'll ask you this. How much are you willing to rely on, Seals Jones and Akins? Like, do you see them realistically filling the role of TE1? Like, I imagine Ricky Seals Jones is immediately the TE1 with Bellinger going down. But do you think that right now Bellinger is the TE1 despite being a 4th-round pick and I've never taken a snap in the NFL yet?
I was hoping he would become the TE1. I don't know if he really is right now because he is a rookie. He hasn't even practiced with the team much yet. I mean, maybe a little bit during mandatory minicamps, but he hasn't really done much. And you don't really know what Daniel Bellinger is going to be. You hope for what he's going to be, and you really love the potential that he possesses, but you don't know what he is right now. He's got to get on the field. And unfortunately, this is just a delay, a barrier for him to become the TE1. And when you're taking a look at the 2 veterans that we have, Ricky Seals-Jones does stand out to me. I know he had that phenomenal touchdown grab versus the Giants. I believe that was in week 2 last season with Washington. That was sick. He had a really nice play there, but overall, he's kind of a backup level player. He's really who you want to be a TE2 on your team. And the same thing with Jordan Akins. And honestly, for a rookie fourth round pick, you probably want them at best being a TE2. This position is super thin for the Giants. They honestly might have to go out into free agency and look to add some depth at tight end, because this is like very worrisome. You know, when you're already having an injury this early in the training camp process. I mean, training camp just began, and Daniel Bellinger, one of your three tight ends that you can actually rely on, is injured. That is super worrisome. And I do think the Giants might want to go out into free agency and consider finding another tight end just to add to the roster. But when you're taking a look at these three players, Seals, Jones, Bellinger, and Akins, I think that Seals Jones is probably your starter day one, but I was really hoping that there would be an awesome summer from Daniel Bellinger. He'd go into training camp. He'd, really just rejuvenate everything and look like a really solid player, surprise everybody, turn heads, and then earn that starting position. And you know what? Maybe he still can do that. We'll have to see how long he's going to be out with this injury, but hopefully it's a quick recovery and he's able to get on the field, turn some heads, and turn into a tight end one.
Well, we can hope so, but let's talk about Kyler Murray's contract just for a moment here, because I do think it's quite relevant and interesting given Daniel Jones's situation. So the Giants obviously rejected the Jones fifth-year option. He needs to prove himself. Kyler Murray, $46.1 million per season. He's getting absolutely paid, and I would make an argument that maybe he doesn't even deserve that just yet. He hasn't proven himself to that degree, in my opinion. Definitely faltered during the postseason, which is when you need your quarterback to step up. But quarterbacks finding good ones is really difficult in today's day and age. So I understand why they did it. But that type of money for a quarterback that still probably isn't essentially entirely proven at that elite level, paying him $46 million, that's a lot of money. And Daniel Jones, I mean, if he looks good this upcoming season, the Giants have to actually extend him on a one-year deal, whatever it might be. What do you think the contract might look like?
A one-year deal for Daniel Jones could look really interesting. Now, I think that most likely, instead of signing him to a one-year deal, you just put a franchise tag on him, because then you still have the ability to trade him. The contract is fully guaranteed unless you trade it. There's no dead cap. So it's really, you're probably looking at paying the franchise tag, which I believe is around 20 to 22 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the franchise tag for a quarterback is upwards of $20 million for that one season. So I think if Daniel Jones does have a good year this year, if he has an elite year and if he wins MVP of the NFL, right, you're probably talking about giving him a long-term extension, which could be a little scary for some Giants fans, considering he hasn't produced year after year. But if he does have this one breakout season and turns everybody upside down with an MVP caliber year, you're probably talking about giving Daniel Jones a long-term extension. But what is the likelihood of that? That's super unlikely that that's to happen. But if he does have a solid year, looks like he developed a lot in Brian Daboll's system, you're probably going to want to keep him around just for one more year to see if he can take that next step with Brian Daboll. Maybe 2 years with Brian Daboll, that really unlocks that next level of Daniel Jones. So my opinion in that situation, you probably put him on the franchise tag. But let's say he has that good year. You put him on the franchise tag, but all of a sudden the Giants somehow have a top 5 pick and a quarterback that they really like is available on the board. So then they can reset the rookie quarterback window. Then you can trade him on that franchise tag. So it's much smarter to put the franchise tag on him rather than sign him to a one-year deal. But they could also do it this way. Maybe a 2-year deal. Maybe a little bridge contract makes sense for Daniel Jones. Give him a couple more seasons to prove himself. But again, I think you're talking about at least $20 million per season for a starting level quarterback. And that's what Daniel Jones is. He's still young. He's still got potential. You're going to bank on that potential. So if you're going to franchise tag him or give him a short-term extension, you're probably going to be paying him $20 to $25 million, maybe 18 at the lowest million dollars, just to have Daniel Jones for another year or two. But long-term extension, you could be talking about $30 to $45 million, depending on how well he plays this year.
Yeah, I mean, this Daniel Jones situation is quite polarizing. It's either like he gets paid or he doesn't get paid. And I think 18 million might be a little bit low. I'm think probably closer to 22 to 25 million makes sense for a one-year deal. But at the same time, they don't have him under contract for next season, right? So you're looking at the Giants salary space. They have 54 million in available cap. And then you have the 30, 25, whatever it might be, million off of that for Daniel Jones. That rookie quarterback window is so important to the development of teams, especially in the middle of a rebuild. So it is an interesting discussion to have. And obviously we'll see how it unfolds in real time as Daniel Jones goes through the 2022 season. But guys, I'd love to hear your perspective below regarding this. Daniel Bellinger, the injury news obviously sucks. we'll keep you guys updated on any developments on that end, of course. Then Daniel Jones, the Kyler Murray contract definitely sets it up for an interesting next couple of months with Daniel Jones and that contract eventually coming to an end. And hopefully, they make the right decision and, they go into the future with some good salary space and flexibility, and maybe they draft a quarterback. We'll see what happens, but a lot left to be proven, a lot left to happen, guys. Training camp's coming up really quickly. We'll get you guys covered with all of the updates and relevant news. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.